Hi, my name's Iain Duncan. I'm the author of Scheme for Macs, a Macs MSP external for scripting and live coding Macs with Scheme Lisp. And today I'm just going to show you briefly how I have integrated using Vim with Macs to allow me to send Scheme code from a Vim editor as if it's a very rich and functional REPL. Alright, this should be pretty quick. Okay, on the screen here, I've got the Macs patch that we're going to use for an example, and this is in the Scheme for Macs Cookbook site on GitHub. So everything you see here, you can go and grab. I'll just show that to you. It's right here. There's the Scheme for Macs Cookbook, and this one is under Editor Integration with all the steps necessary and all the code examples. All right, let's walk through it. So we've got a Macs patch with a UDP receive object and an arbitrary port number. I've chosen 7777. 7000 is a popular range because it won't conflict with other things happening on your system. And the output from UDP receive goes to a prepend eval string box and then into the interpreter. Now for debugging purposes, I've also hooked up a bang just to let me know that something did indeed come in over the network. And just to get started, I've also hooked up a message box to show me the string input, and I'll delete that once we're up and running. So that's what happens on the Macs end. Okay, on the other end, the way I'm doing it is I have a Python script that wraps up everything that's come into standard input and then sends it over the network. And you can see that here. It's pretty darn simple. I'm using the liblo library, so that does require installing both the C version of liblo and then the Python wrapper, which is called pyliblo. So I had to download and install those on Mac. I had to do the configure make install for liblo, and then install pyliblo with pip. You could use, I'm sure, any Python OSC library or really whatever language you like. Then the Python script reads everything from standard input, so all the lines available in standard input, joins them with a carriage return between each line, and saves that as contents, and then it sends the contents out as a string over port 7777. So really quite straightforward. Now let's test that out to see whether we're working so far. So what we can do is send a piece of text from standard input into Macs and see if that works. So I'm going to use echo. I'm in bash, pipe, and there we go. We saw the bang flash, and we see the results in our message box. And we also see in our console that it worked. We have foobar posted. So that's the actual guts of the system. And then what's happening to let us do this in Vim? And you might have seen in the other videos, I'm able to go over an S expression and just quickly send it off into Scheme. Perhaps make a function definition and call it. So how am I doing that? This is where it gets Vim specific, though I'm sure you could adapt it for other editors easily enough. So I'm going to open my vimrc file. And all of this is on the cookbook. And you can see I have essentially 4 remappings active. I've set my leader key to comma. So the leader key, if you're not familiar with that, means that by going comma and then another value, I can make special mappings that aren't going to collide with built-in Vim mappings. And then I've got 4 mappings. The first one is if I'm in normal mode and I go comma E, I want to visually select the enclosing parenthetical expression. So that's what VA parentheses does. So that will be the equivalent of going like that. Oops, sorry, not in normal mode. Vim spazzing. Okay, so VAW, and then I'm going to send it with the :W exclamation mark to a script. So if we go :W exclamation mark, and then whatever, the whatever will be the shell script that that value gets sent to. So when I go :E, you see the whole thing gets highlighted. Then very quickly, :W exclamation mark, and we call our Python script and press enter and enter. And you could get rid of the second enter when you're first trying it out if you want to test whether it's working. So my second one is the same deal, just in visual mode. And so in visual mode, it says if I'm in visual mode, don't do the VA parentheses. Just use whatever is visually highlighted. Do the same thing. And then finally, I thought it would be handy to be able to make myself the equivalent of a little line-oriented REPL. So I also made some option E mappings. If I go post foobar and I hit option E, it's just going to slam it out and then put me back into insert mode, much like I'm at a terminal REPL. And the way that works is if I'm in normal mode and I hit option E, visually select the whole S expression, do the same dance with :W, send it to the shell script. But when we're done the shell script, delete the contents, put us back in insert mode at the beginning of the line. So that's what the DGG :I does. I've got the same thing for I mode. Now there is one gotcha, which is technically a limitation right now of Scheme for Macs, which I plan on fixing pretty soon. And that is that right now, eval string will only evaluate one S expression. So if you wanted to evaluate multiple S expressions, perhaps you wanted to make two functions or define another variable. At the moment, if I go V all the way down and then :E, you're going to see my fun got defined, but not define A99. So the workaround for that is to wrap them up in a begin. And then do the same thing with the begin. And you'll see both go out to the scheme interpreter. So the plan for the next minor release of Scheme for Macs is to add that capability so that the REPL on the interpreter does that automatically when it gets a string expression of more than one S expression. But in the meantime, it's not very difficult to either do that yourself or simply send a couple of evaluations. So that's really all there is to it for being able to use your editor as your way of sending Scheme interactively to Macs. And I found it to be a really easy to use and productive workflow. I hope that's helpful to you.